Welcome back to the daily stream. Welcome to Armchair Safari, the daily design stream where we find a piece of design online, we look at it, and we try to figure out how this can make us better designers by trying to figure out what is good about it, what is bad about it, and what does does this work for the end user? If you want to hang out, there's a chat somewhere around the screen right now. If you just want to look at the design, it's in the description below or in the next post if you're on X. So let's dive right in. So today we're looking at this post by Mike Rundle, and Mike at Flyosity on X. I don't actually know if he made this or if this is a part of his Trio app or if this is like some stuff he found online. I don't actually know, but he has a funny quip like flat design was a zero interest rate phenomenon, and he's found some non-flat buttons for us, which I find super interesting. So just to give you a bit of context for this, I started designing stuff in the 90s. Yes, I know you weren't born yet, but I started designing stuff in the 90s in Photoshop. It was like Photoshop 5 or something. And way back then, like the coolest thing you could possibly do was make things slightly 3D by adding shading to it. So of course that became like the coolest thing you could do for a very long time until way back in, oh God, I don't know what year it was, but in iOS 7, Apple suddenly decided like, no, we're not going to do skeuomorphism anymore. There's not going to be any more 3D buttons ever. We're just going to make everything completely flat because that's more like authentic to the digital experience. And as usually happens post iPhone, when Apple does something, everybody jumped on board and suddenly the whole internet was flat. We were kind of happy about it, to be honest, because it made it a lot easier to make designs. It was just a lot quicker, especially for developers. But it also started to become pretty boring. I don't know if you've seen like the last 10 years of Android, but it's pretty damn boring. Like every app literally looks exactly the same because Material UI is just garbage. Anyway, that was just a little side note. So here we can finally see the pendulum starting to swing back. Now we've seen this for a few years, like in Mac OS and on some websites, we've seen this like skeuomorphic-ish sort of elements pop up. But I thought this was a really nice callback because this is one of these plasticky pill buttons that used to be pervasive everywhere, except that now they are like the support to be able to do this is so much better today than when this was popular a few years ago. So today this looks freaking amazing in a way that it just absolutely could not back like 10 years ago or whenever this was cool. So the first button here has a slight outline, but mostly it's just convex. So it has this like really nice shading to it. It has a very nice like pop out sort of effect. It also has a glow around it. So it makes it look like light is reflecting off the button onto the black background, even though it's not really there. The text also has a drop shadow to it, which is really interesting, making the text stand out from the button. This is sort of an odd choice if you're going for completely skeuomorphic because text rarely is de-embossed like this. Debossed, de-embossed, I don't know. You tell me. Surface, but the chamfer or the edge towards the background is a little stronger. It both like designed in the same way. Really nice. I don't know if this, yeah, the dots also have drop shadow. It's just very slight or very discreet on this background. I mean, it looks fabulous. It's close to flat. It's just a very subtle detail. And I gotta say, I kind of missed it, even though it feels a little retro for me. I'm sure that like the young generation today is gonna look at this and go like, yeah, that's just more fresh and more modern because they're so used to flat and it is getting a little bit stale. Then we have this other example, which is way more retro. Exactly what we used to do. The plasticky, like really high looking and then just the actual button itself was mostly flat. Yeah, really, really love this. Looks really playful. Looks really like it's almost like a candy pill, or in this case, oh no, oh that was weird. I suddenly lost the stream. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so this first one just kind of looks like you kind of just want to play with it. You kind of want to push it, see what happens. The second one, this looks like you're almost in a video game. Like this is a free to play game, and that button is going to give you gems or whatever. Anyway, so the how you make this is really, really simple. You just add a one or two outer or inner shadows, I guess, around the edges. So you have an inner stroke and an inner shadow to give it some shading to give you this nice edge, and then you have a gradient in it to create this convex sort of thing, convex surface. The thing that you have to remember is the light source has to come from approximately the same direction. So you can't have a light source from the top of this button and one from the bottom of the other button, because then one of them is going to look like it's inverted or pushed down. But it's really nice to see this, especially this blue one with a glow effect. I think that works really, really well. So what can we learn from this? Well, there's a bunch of stuff from retro design that you can just reuse today and make it seem modern just because the techniques are so much better today. So what's bad about this? Well, because it is a little bit more playful, because it is a little bit more fun, it is going to look less serious. So it's important to know that uh, this technique is not you can't use it everywhere. You can't use it for everything. But I'm happy to see these things sort of sneak back in. It's kind of nice to know. You can tell the difference from what I'm talking about between this button and this button, just from the publish to the share. Just because the share button is higher and slightly more of a less corporate color, you immediately get this like, oh, that's a video game effect. And that's just the connotation due to like the branding of this technique. So it's not something that we can easily traverse. So it's just worth keeping that in mind. It's not a defect of the design in any way. So does this work for the end user? I think people over like 35 are probably going to look at this and go like, oh, that's retro. And people below 30 are probably going to look at this and go like, ooh, that's sweet and modern. I don't know that, but I suspect that's what's going to happen. That's usually what happens when design styles come back. People look at it and go like, ooh, that's sweet. So yeah, I totally think this will work. And like the reason we did skeuomorphism back in the day wasn't just because it was cool. It was mostly because it was cool. But it was also because it gives you some valuable insight about what this UI does. With a completely flat button, you have to denote that it is a button using like a clickable color or something like that. But in this case, like because it's convex, you know you're supposed to click it because it sticks out like a button would at an actual UI or an actual interface, like a physical interface. So yeah, I think it totally has a place in the world, and I'm pretty happy to see this back. And yeah, that's it for today. See you tomorrow when it's the last serious day of the week before Friday Fun Day. If you have any fun designs, let me know. Hit me up on X or whatever. I'm the same name everywhere, just for Byron. So this was Armchair Safari for today. I don't know how many episodes I've done now. It's probably something in like the 40s or 50s or something. But anyway, this is a daily stream where we try to learn from the best design I can find on the internet, and very glad I found this. Definitely go check out what Mike Rundle is building with Trio and see if he's going to use these cool 3D buttons or not. Anyway, talk to you tomorrow. Bye bye. Bye bye.